Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark movies.
Hello, everyone. I'm Will Kemp, and I'm somewhere between the two of these guys.
This is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Yeah, it's a big day around here. I mean, Will Kemp
Big day.
on the pod.
I woke up with a little pep in my step today.
We've done 1,300 or 1,400 episodes. I don't know, maybe 1,100. I don't know. It took 1,100 episodes to get Will Kemp here. That's how many it took. We reached out and Will was like, when you've hit 1,000, let me know.
He thought we wouldn't get it that far, which is fair.
Maybe I'll grace you with my presence. Will, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, congratulations on the milestone. It's really impressive that you guys have clearly gotten this far. And this could be the last one you do, let's be honest.
That's right.
Yes, 100%.
After Will's admission to being only lukewarm on Hallmark movies, I feel like, there's nowhere to go from there.
I don't buy that for a second. I think he's a bigger fan than I am.
But if he's not, then this middle chair,
that's true.
We got a chair. We'll put it right here, and you can come. If the acting and dancing doesn't work out for you, South Carolina
podcasting might be in your future.
Bless you guys. I can imagine myself sandwiched between the two of you, and it wouldn't be pretty. We should all stay where we are. And of course, I'm a big fan of Hallmark.
Of course you are.
Of course.
No, we want to get that squared away. But we are going to cut that clip of you being sandwiched between us and use that for all kinds of
really
purposes.
We should definitely, what does this look like?
That's going to be really good. Take that. But there is life before Hallmark. There's life before acting. We all, best I can figure, all were children at one point. Unless you're Kyle XY and you were built in the lab with no belly button. But Will, let's start with your childhood. Where were you born, and what type of child were you? Were you the type of child that was always looking for attention like I was, or were you, a normal child that just did normal kid stuff?
I don't think there is such thing as a normal child. God, this is like a therapy session, right? Buckle in, everyone. Here we go. I grew up. I'm the eldest of three. I have a younger brother who is a triathlete and Iron Man. He's incredibly fit and strength and conditioning coach. And then our younger sister is also a dancer. She's currently on tour with the company that I performed with as well, Matthew Bourne. They're in LA. If anyone is in LA, go see Romeo and Juliet at the Armandson.
I love it. And we have somebody in our chat that said they saw you in Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake and you were spectacular. So there you go.
Bless them. They're obviously of a certain age, which I appreciate.
No comment.
Yeah, no. So I grew up in a small village called King's Langley. It's a bit like Game of Thrones, isn't it? King's Landing or something, but it's King's Langley in Hertfordshire. And I guess as a kid, I was both very shy. I grew up with a pretty intense speech impediment, which basically made me more creative and loved playing characters. So I was always in the garden. I was always putting on costumes. My grandma used to make me like a Robin Hood outfit, a Superman outfit, and all these wonderful characters. So I would literally have this chest where I would literally open it up and go like, who do I want to be today?
Wow.
So as a child, I was very much, not so much seeking attention. I think that came later, but I was much more involved in creating worlds and characters.
You're British. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm English.
So did you feel more comfortable? Is it because of the speech impediment, you felt more comfortable in these characters than you did just in your own skin?
Yeah, I think so. And that's what then led me to dancing. So my mum used to dance, and I guess I was coming up to about 9 years old, and my mother thought that it would be a great opportunity and a great way to express myself. So she put me into a tap dancing class with actually the woman who taught her, Elizabeth Harrison in Watford, if anybody knows, so the area. And that's how I began to dance. So it was quite a sort of organic process from one to the other. And then bizarrely through the dancing, years and years of that, and then at the Royal Ballet School, and it actually got me back into drama, bizarrely enough, and then Shakespeare plays, and then I've sort of done a full circle where I'm predominantly acting now again.
So you did tap dancing and then you did ballet? Is that how that happened?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
The Royal Ballet School in
come on then, bring on the questions about the types.
No. The Royal Ballet School in London. That's one of those where everybody can get in, right? You just show up and you get in there pretty easily.
Oh yeah, you can just they just grab people off the street and they go.
They're just
happy to be in the Royal Ballet.
Yeah, they're just happy that someone wants to join.
It's like
them,
it's like Juilliard here,
right?
It's just one of these things where if you want to go to Juilliard, you just show up and go to Juilliard.
Does tap dancing help in any way give you a leg up for somebody who has never done any dance before and just wants to try ballet without any experience? Does it give you any sort of leg up on people?
That's a very smart question, actually. I think they're different disciplines, right? But the key, yeah, I know. Look at you. Hey,
no, he is.
No, it's a pretty good day for me.
Yeah. Well, you woke up with a pep in
I
your
did.
step, so
You're right.
I mean, that's good.
You're right.
Yeah, that's good. You should do. It's a lovely day today. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess the key is that for a boy who's 9, back in the what was I was going to be, but back in the 80s, right? Late 80s. How old am I? Yeah. Basically, to get a boy to go to dance class at that time was pretty impressive. So you do what it takes. And at the time, there was a boys' class, and there was a good 10, 12 of us in that class when I began. And we did everything. We did tap dancing, we did modern, we did jazz, we did contemporary, a bit of ballet, drama. By the time I left the Staff School of Dance and Drama in Watford, it was basically me. I was the only one left.
Wow.
So there's your sort of like ratio of 12 boys, ranging from, I guess I was near the younger spectrum, but literally I was the only one left. So by the time I then graduated and went to the Royal Ballet School at 16.
Wow. Unbelievable. And so you clearly had I mean, like, to go to the Royal Ballet School, you had to be really, really good. At what point in that time, in the early training, did you realize, or did your parents realize, this might be like a career for you? This is more than just a hobby to get you out of your shell. This is something serious.
Another great question. 13. It's very clear for me. I turned 13 and I knew that I'd found something that if I worked my nether regions off, then I could achieve something. And it was tangible, because it's literally, I showed up for class every day after school. I worked my off and literally I was like, I'm getting better at this. And I was passing exams. So I was graded through the ISTD, which is the Imperial Society of Teachers of Dance.
Wow.
So you literally go through grade 1 to 8, I think it is, and then it goes into elementary or pre-elementary, elementary, and then advanced and all those things. So it was a very clear sort of cut thing for me that by the age of 13, I was like, I'm getting better at this. I enjoy this. I enjoy the sweat. I enjoy the graft. So it was a tangible thing. And that was at 13.
Now here, if I grew up and I did ballet,
please relate your experience to Will Kemp's.
No. This is leading to a question.
I eat a Pop-Tart every day at 10 o'clock.
I do, and honestly, you are.
And I bet she's lovely.
You are interrupting my Pop-Tart o'clock, and it's fine. If I growing up in Florida did ballet, my buddies would have ragged on me, and your buddies would have ragged on you.
Yes.
Is it just different over there, or did your buddies rag on you?
I think it is different. We're obviously an advanced species in this part of the world. No, it's of course. I was pretty lucky, if I'm honest. I think in particularly hearing stories like that. But yeah, I mean, I remember being at school and I had this kid who kept teasing me. I mean, I was teased about so many things, but particularly wearing tights. And I remember again vividly going, I guess I got to punch this guy. I guess that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. So I just smacked him. And of course I got a detention, and it was in gym class. And I remember that we were put into the dressing room together. It was like, you two go work it out. And so we're there, and he's like, that was a good hit, man. I'm saying, well, yeah, I'm in better shape than you because I train every day. And it's like, really? So what do you do? And we got talking. And through that chat, we actually got to know each other and actually appreciate and like each other. So by the end of that detention, he was like, actually, this dude's good. And this guy's okay. And he's in great shape. So don't take the piss or he'll hit you.
Right. So this guy had a bully, hit him,
A great life
and then
lesson.
they talked it out, and you wonder why we revolted and left England here in America. You wonder why the American Revolution happened. I think we just figured it out. I think we just locked it in just
exactly
now.
right.
That's unbelievable. What a story.
Yeah. So lucky, I guess. But yeah.
So you have a passion, you pursue the passion, and then you just kind of slipped in there, and then the ballet kind of like I ended up doing Shakespeare. Is that a normal transition?
Well, no, I mean, I say that sounds very grand, and I'd love you to write some my biography. Will Kemp does Shakespeare. What I meant by that was that I found the language of Shakespeare at school.
Okay.
Actually, was the first sort of intro, and it was my way into sort of drama and plays. I have done professional productions of Romeo and Juliet and things like that, but it was more about in terms of language and finding a confidence, I suppose, and a way of performing and feeling rhythm with language. And that was my way in a sort of through the dance, through the movement, through the rhythm into language. That was what I meant by that.
Well, I don't like Shakespeare. I don't get him. Think he's overrated in general. Could you just give me the hard sell? Like, what am I? What am I missing with Bill that
We'll
like everybody
speak
else?
for all of England and give the sell on Shakespeare.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I'm definitely not the best person to be asking. You could ask virtually any other English actor. But I am called Will Kemp, and Will Kemp was a very famous clown of the times of Shakespeare. He actually was part of Shakespeare's company and created many, many parts within his plays. He then got too famous and too much of a star that apparently Will Kemp kicked him out of the company. I'm sorry, that William Shakespeare kicked Will Kemp out of the company.
Wow.
But for me, Shakespeare was exactly that. It was my transition into speech, into words, into rhythm, and I marvel at it now as a 40 blah 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 old guy, just because I have friends. The memory involved to remember Shakespeare. These plays are long, they're intricate, they are beautiful, and in a nutshell, the language is obviously rhythmic, iambic, pentameter, but what it does is it allows the listener almost to switch off because it paints these amazing pictures. So rather than get picture, it allows the actors and the characters to talk, and as a watcher and a listener, you're being painted a very sort of slow and gentle picture which twists and turns without even trying to hear every word. That makes sense?
Yeah.
You didn't
I guess
sell
it was
him.
fine.
It was beautiful.
No, I guess he's fine. I'll give him another chance.
But from a story point of view, I mean,
yeah,
you know, West Side Story is Romeo and
all of the stories we tell now are his stories.
Yeah, but it's just because he's old. Like he was one of the first. So like, if you big whoop, I could have done that.
Brandon can't spell iambic pentameter. Okay,
I can't wait to read your play.
Yes.
Wait until you see it. It is going to blow your mind.
That's right. So you didn't do any live theater. You didn't do any live theater Shakespeare growing up in London.
No, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, I did. I have done. I guess my first things were in theatre, predominantly as a dancer. But then I did a production of Romeo and Juliet. I was in Equus with Daniel Radcliffe in the West End. Yeah, I've done plays here and there, but I mainly then transitioned into TV and film.
How'd that happen? What was that? Did you just get an agent and get an audition, or you just like, how'd that work?
No, that for me again was a real. I was lucky enough to be performing on Broadway in Swan Lake, which is the Matthew Bourne show that your colleague probably saw. And I was approached by agents at the time, and they basically said, "Hey, kid, you ever want to be a star? Hey," that kind of thing. I was like, yeah, whatever. However, I am genuinely intrigued and have a passion for acting. I already did, because the type of work that we were producing as a company was very character driven and very story based. And so I was in Los Angeles, a very clear time, performing in a production at the Armson of Cinderella. Was it Cinderella? It might be in the comment. Anyway, September the 11th. And the whole of the East Coast tour was cancelled. I remember vividly, I was in my apartment, woken up. My girlfriend, who's actually my wife now, was with me, and I just turned on and I just said, "What, the world has just gone nuts." I thought it was a movie. I didn't know what was going on. I called the stage manager, and I just said, "What's going on? What time is our dress rehearsal?" It was the performance, I think, and she just said, "We need to get back to you." We cancelled that night's show, and then we went back in, and everyone was crying and very, very shaken. And we actually carried on for the Los Angeles performances and also up in San Fran. Point being, I was in LA, and I just realized life can be so effing short that if you have a passion, if the only thing holding you back is, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it," just do it. And that was the time that I had agents like perching to say, "If you ever want to go." So I read scripts, I went out, I did tons of auditions. I read for Rennie Harlan and a couple of other projects at that time, and was cast in my first film. So with Rennie Harlan directing, Christian Slater, Val Kilmer, LL Cool J, Johnny Lee Miller, Clifton Collins Jr., Patricia Velasquez, Catherine Morris, all these big hitters.
That movie's Mindhunters. So to just literally going from dancing to being in a Hollywood feature film out of the gate, unbelievable.
Yes, and I think I was incredibly lucky. I was incredibly right. I actually read for a couple of parts in that film. And Rennie Harlan, bless him, to this day, he's such a great. I would love to work with him again, and I would love to get back in there with Rennie. He loved the fact that I was an outsider, and for this group of FBI profilers, he needed that one slight loose cannon who could potentially be a red herring for the killer and all of those things. And he just, bless him, he came up to me. We did a read through. The Weinsteins actually. Anyway, they've just remembered me. Actually, they produced. Yeah, okay. And he came up to me and he said, "I know you've not done this too much." So I said, "Shh, don't tell anyone." And he literally winked at me and he was like this. And his piece of direction, we did the whole read through. It went really well, and the producer, it was a read through of that was like, it was like we were as actors all around the table, and around the room were all the money people, all the producers, all the studio, all the casting, you know. And his piece of direction to everyone was like, You learn your lines, I'll make you look good. That was it.
I love it.
I was like,
There you go.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Dude, Mindhunters is a wild movie. It's FBI training and it's psychological murder mystery. It's wild. It is I remember watching it as a 20-ish-year-old. It's a wild time. And here's the thing is, Will does that movie and he's like, oh, acting's easy. I'm going to go do Van Helsing next with Hugh Jackman. What? That, like, you went from to Hollywood feature film to probably $100 million plus budget Hollywood feature film. That's wild, man.
And in between that, I got a Gap commercial, which went absolutely viral, like global.
Wow.
Which was basically basically wanted this crossover kid. That's basically, I think, the sweet spot that I hit was this crossover kid. Like, he's a dancer, but he's an actor, but we also want him to do a modeling campaign. It was this weird, it was before actors really had campaigns.
Yeah.
Now every actor has their campaign.
Right.
And I was being sort of positioned and offered, actually, if I'm really honest, campaigns. And the agent I had at the time said, Will, do you either want to be a dancer or an actor? If you want to be an actor, don't confuse it by doing all the modeling. I mean, now I can't get a campaign for love nor money.
I bet we can find you a campaign. I bet we can find you one.
Yeah, exactly. Bless you. But no, Van Helsing, again, was exactly that. I went in to play the Wolfman, and I did my own spin in the casting room. I basically turned myself into a wolf and shredded my skin and sort of threw myself around the casting office. And the casting director was like, okay, stop. So I thought, well, at least I made a strong choice. Everyone talks about make a choice. And I was like, well, I guess I tore up the office and scared the living shit out of her. And then I got a call back in front of Steve Summers, the director, and Steve's great. Steve has so much kind of boy energy. He's like, great, oh, good, like this sort of thing. And I got to the part in the scene where I have to like turn into this wolf, and I could tell my veins were popping, and I was just about to go, full on. And he went, stop. We saw the tape. We know you can do it. Thank you. And I was like, damn, I didn't even get to turn into a wolf in front of the director. I've definitely blown this. He just thinks I'm nuts. And then I got the gig, and that was a real trip. And Hugh Jackman, man, I saw Hugh. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and I went to see him in New York. I guess it's the year before last, actually, in the Music Man. And he's just,
oh my goodness,
he's such an amazing guy, and is a big hero, actually. And of course, the lovely Kate Beckinsale. She was gorgeous. Actually, I had to remember I was playing her brother a lot of the time. Quite
so you got to make a choice there for sure.
Yeah, different vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah, different vibe.
Exactly. And then Richard Roxburgh also.
Oh man,
as Dracula, phenomenal actor and a really, really lovely man. It was a great cast.
You talked about making a choice and going real hard for that audition. Has that ever gone wrong for you? Have you ever made just like a huge choice in a casting room and walked out and gone, what in the world did I just do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've said that. I'm sure they've said that. Yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. I think I've probably run the gamut of excellent auditions to absolutely, we thought he'd be better type thing. I mean, and hey, yeah, they were probably right. And the casting thing is such a bizarre process. You have to be really thick-skinned. I mean, you hear this all the time because it's true. But I will say this, the most empowering thing for an actor is getting the role. When I have people give me a role because they've watched me or they've worked with me before, and actually this is where I credit Hallmark are fantastic at this, and will probably arrive there through the interview, but I had to audition the normal way. The first one I did for them, I haven't had to audition since.
Wow.
And it's the most empowering thing because there's no questions.
Right.
They cast you. They offer you. I mean, anytime I've been offered a role, I'm always slightly why are they offering it to me? But it's the most empowering thing you can do for an actor, because you're basically giving them a gift. You're basically saying, we know you can do this. We trust you. Bring it. It's yours. You're not, there's not this thing of like winning the role, or it's amazing, because then the work begins. Then the fun begins.
Yeah.
All this, screen testing. And I mean, chemistry tests are often fun, because it is literally that you get to play and see who you're going to be cast kind of opposite. I look at auditions now, if I can, as a rehearsal. Sometimes I want to try and feel out what the directors are like and what the material's really like. And sometimes you come out of there going, I don't think I really wanted to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I really quickly touch, since we're still a little bit early on in your on-screen career, you hear a lot about on-screen actors that try to do something with Broadway and the kind of the learning curve there from going from on-screen to the stage. I imagine there was a similar learning curve for you going from stage to screen, but also having to do it kind of surrounded by these mega stars in these first couple of movies that you did. What was that learning curve like for you? And did you feel the freedom to kind of play around and figure out this screen thing versus how you were used to doing things on the stage?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think the essence of it stays the same. But there is, I have an analogy that the stage is literally, you go from the wings, from a private personal space, to a big space in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On stage. Film, you do the opposite.
Yeah.
Everything which is big and out there on stage, you then take to the wings. You take backstage, you take into a personal, private. But the essence of everything doesn't change. It's just, it's much more of a personal experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Will.
No, I was just going to say, but I've had to learn that over a lot of time. And the question being about how to adapt, first of all, to be honest, I was so much younger. Confidence gets you a long way. Not so much I was blagging because I did the work, but I was lucky to come across people, great, gracious actors like Clifton Collins Jr., who on my first job was like, yo, Dub, man, let's go run lines. And of course, I thought he meant drugs, but of course, he is an absolute professional. We sat up for hours and we went through scene after scene, choice after choice. And when you get a gift of an actor like Clifton, who's actually still a great friend, whom I actually rehearse with and prep with often, actually, when I'm in LA, it's about the work. So I felt as if I was always bringing something. I felt there was a bit of an arrogant stroke confidence. I mean, I had bleached blonde hair in that movie.
Yeah, you did.
Come on. It was, but I learned so much from everybody. But I felt as if I actually had something to bring. So, yeah, it was a sharp learning curve. But the essence of acting doesn't change.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much we have to get to, Will, and I'm sorry that this has been, you're just too interesting, but I have to ask this question now before I forget it. Hearing you talk, I listened to hearing you talk about how at 13 you loved the grind of practicing for hours and hours a day. And then hearing you talk about everything that you've been in, you have mentioned someone else. You've mentioned directors and actors and people that put on these plays. It's very clear that you love the craft of this. And so my question is, have you ever thought about doing this from a different angle? Like, does directing interest you, acting, dance coaching? Like, is this something that when you're done acting in years, you've already lined this up? It just sounds like you love the collaboration of the grind. And so is that something that interests you?
Definitely. I'm really glad that comes across. I genuinely do love the process, and I choreographed. I have taught a little bit as a dancer. I am an executive producer on The Dancing Detective, which I co-created with a writer friend of 20 years, Aubrey Day. We're in the process of hopefully doing another one because it did really well for Hallmark. Definitely, I have the utmost respect for directing, for film making, for the whole process, and I definitely, if people decided they didn't want me in front of the camera anymore, then I would not leave the arena. Definitely, I come back with a different kind of armor on, and I would be gladiating something else. Totally, I absolutely thrive on the process, and the projects that I've had the opportunity to be in the development of, or the creating from a script level, to actually being on set and being open and learning about everyone else's job, fascinates me still.
Yeah. And that's like, it comes across, and I'm sorry for the frivolous question, but now we can talk about Step Up to the Streets.
No, it's
we can
great.
talk about Step Up to the Streets now,
Nice.
which is why we're really all here. You play a 30-year-old dean of a high school in this film about dancing, where you do not get to dance. As a classically trained dancer in a movie notorious for dancing, at any point did you go, hey, I could
step up too.
I could step up as well.
I could step up too. Yeah, I could step up also
too.
Yeah. Also on the
I could step. That's the British remake. The British remake.
Yeah, exactly.
Step up also on the streets. Yes, is what it's called.
There you are. Yeah. What up, dog? Yeah.
Let's run some lines.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't touch that stuff.
Never.
Yeah.
No.
Never.
And Clifton Collins wouldn't either, and I want that on the record. Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's why I said that was my interpretation of what he said. He is a true pro, and I love that man to bits. No, this was an interesting one. I did, yeah. This was a sort of, you've talked about, how did you get this? This was easy, or looks easy, and there was stuff. This one was a really interesting one because I'd met John Chu before at Paramount. He brought me in for another thing he had in development, so I knew John, and I'd met him before, and he's a phenomenal,
unbelievable
guy, as you know. Right now he's on fire. And so originally they wanted a sort of choreographer.
Oh.
Who didn't, because in the original, the role of the person who owned the school was played by Rachel Griffiths, I seem to remember. And the character I originally went up for was a sort of young choreographer who was somewhere between the owner of the school and then all the kids. So I was meant to be this sort of, and originally it was more of like a mentor. So I was still a little bit cool, not quite old enough to run the school. And then they decided to amalgamate those characters. And then I was told, oh, no, by the way, now you run the school. And I was like, really? But I'm a little bit too young. And no, it's all fine. And he's also now your brother. Like, okay, that's interesting. So I got to do an American accent, which I hadn't really done before at that point. And I was playing a sort of stuffier head of the school, right? So I was like, okay, that's not quite so cool. Anyway, I had a great time on that job. It was a real learning curve in signing up to one thing and it ending up to be another. And it's the first job I did where I was surrounded by a lot of younger, cooler, fitter people. I felt very old.
I don't believe for a second they were cooler.
Well, I know it's hard to believe with me sitting here in front of you, but they were, and they still are. And the dancers on that film, in fact, I actually was greeted today at the gym by someone who immediately recognized me from that film. And was actually a great ex-dancer anyway. But for me, I couldn't have done any of the stuff that they did. And we ended up putting in more teaching with Brianna in the studio, and it sort of played up to him being a bit stuffier and a bit uptight. I certainly got quite a bit of flack, so for being all of those things. But it was just the first time that I was in something where I was not the cool guy and felt slightly a fish out of water.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know we have to get to Hallmark.
We do.
And we will. I have one more question before we get to Hallmark.
I have one more too.
Go ahead.
I want to talk about
and
this.
I'll try and be brief because I talk a lot.
No. You're doing
fantastic,
great.
man.
You're doing great. I want to talk about the Scorpion King 4.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
One, because
Victor Webster.
our buddy Victor Webster was in that movie, and we've had him on, and he told some insane stories
Oh my
from the
gosh.
set of the Scorpion King 4. Like almost dying on
He
the
tore
set
his ACL, got thrown off an elephant, and then did another take. Like, the dude's crazy.
So,
I mean, it's all an exaggeration, right? I mean, Vic's tough. He's this big Canadian guy who lifts lots of weights, and he's, buff and ripped, and all the girls love him. And he's got a dog. He's also very sensitive. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's really, in real life, if you meet him, right? He's not really that imposing,
He's not that big. He's got a very high pitched voice.
the worst.
No, I love Vic. My kids adore him.
He's the best.
My wife adores him, which is big thing.
Fair.
In fact, during the holiday season, Victor Webster did a segment for us every day called A Fighting Chance with Vic Webster, where we would ask Vic if there was any fighting in the movie, and he would always just say no.
He would just say no every week.
That was the whole bit.
40 different times.
40 different times.
What a guy.
He's the best.
Brilliant.
He's the best.
Brilliant.
I want to ask, one, do you have any crazy stories from that set? Because it just sounds like it was an interesting filmmaking experience, to say the least. But also, I want to know, going to the movie's IMDb page, an amazing picture of you in your full garb. Do you have that? Is that just ready to go anytime?
In the closet there?
Yeah, just good to look at. It's just a nice picture.
Just in here, actually. I can't quite open.
Yeah.
Dude, it's definitely in
If I had that picture of myself, I would send it to people without them asking.
If you go to Will at Christmas Con, he's got 2 glossies out. One is him as the Dean in Step Up 2, right. And one is him in his garbage and the Scorpion King. He's like, dancing. I don't know what you're talking about.
I need it.
And that confuses everybody right there. They don't know who I am, where I'm
That's
from.
right.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But yes, this set, tell me all about it.
No, so the only thing I got sent from Mike Elliott, the director, was the sword. And I was my big, heavy, beautifully made sword. This great big thing came in the mail a couple of weeks after we wrapped. And I couldn't take it home. I mean, I was in LA, so when I moved back to London, I was like, if I ship this, it's going to cost me, hundreds, if not, it's heavy. So I've got that. Scorpion King for me was the first time I met Victor, and it was the beginning of a real budding sort of brotherhood, kinship, friendship, right from that, because it's part of those characters, right? But I'll try and be concise. I love those types of things. That world, that adventure, that horse riding, sword fighting, wire work, martial arts world. I adore that. I eat that for breakfast. And to be with the cast that I was with, we were training together every day. I mean, I jumped on and I had 5 or 6 weeks. Victor had been doing this for 6 months. So by the time he showed up, he literally, I was like, oh, great, you're going to stand me next to this guy? I better be funny. I got to be wily. I've got to go jump through hoops, because all he has to do is literally stand there and grunt.
Yes.
I was like, damn.
But he also loves the grind. He loves the grind.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a match made in heaven.
And totally. And we had Lou Ferrigno come down. We had these guys. Okay, here's the story. We had Big Country Nelson. We had Silver. We had the Gracies. I mean, we had the jiu-jitsu, the MMA. We had all these people come on set, and Roy Country Nelson who hadn't really acted before, and you could tell he was slightly nervous, but he really wanted to get it right. And it was about teaching these guys not to make contact, right? Because they are so used to actually hitting people, actually throwing down in the ring, that they got very worked up. You could see the nerves, and they had to like do a piece where they had to say something, and then they had to throw a punch and sort of do stuff. And the more we got into it, I could see that the nerves about the lines were so in their brain that once they got those lines out, they then just let rip. And Roy accidentally, perfect uppercut, perfect, like this, just didn't obviously connect 100% because I wouldn't be here, trust me. But he clocked me, and I've still got a hard lump.
Oh my
It
goodness!
was like the perfect clock. Luckily, my jaw was relaxed, and it's in one of the takes, and you see on his face. So he goes from this sort of bearded, bellied, rough, and he has this incredible hook, I guess, where he comes in like this, and you'll watch him now in the ring, and he does one of these things. I duck, and he comes under and up, and it literally, I popped all the way up into here. My head rang, and I had to put ice on, and because he was so perfect, and it was a connection, but it wasn't a full-on hit. I survived. So I don't think there's very many people that can say they survived a Roy Big Country Nelson's
uppercut. We got to find that clip. And then, Steven,
the director's like, well, we don't need another one. We're good.
We're good.
We got it.
No.
We got it.
We got it.
Lou Ferrigno, I could tell you so many great things about, but we probably don't have time.
And Steven Summers directed the first Mummy movie and directed Van Helsing, and this is a Mummy. Did you reach out to him and just go like, hey man, I'm doing the Mummy 4, or did he not care at all?
Yeah, because what is it? It's a sequel to a prequel to a sequel to a. There's a beautiful thing, and I think his name as an exec producer was even on Scorpion King that I did. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. I think he's sort of retired, but he's an amazing guy. Lou Ferrigno, though. I mean, the Hulk. So I ad-libbed. I said, "Don't make him angry."
Oh man.
And I can't remember if that stayed in.
If that's in the movie.
There was a couple of good little ad-libs that we got in there.
All right. I got one more non-Hallmark, then we got to get to Hallmark, and then we've got to have you back on clearly to talk about all of this, and I could just listen to you tell stories all day.
I'd love to.
Thank you. That's a verbal commit. Everyone heard that. He's coming back.
Absolutely. I'd heard you guys were great, but so far you've been pretty gentle with me, which I appreciate.
I mean, God bless you, sir. You were on CW's Reign, where you got to play for, according to this, 16 episodes as Henry Stewart, who I believe was a wife of Mary, Queen of Scots, one of them, second or third, I don't know. You were playing someone in British royalty for the CW. What goes in as an upstanding, speaks the King's English British man playing a member of royalty for the CW? The crossroads there is absurd, because you have to do the pulpy, soapy absurdity that is the CW, but you also can't go home to your family and be like, oh, you were really, that's what you did with Henry Stewart. So like what happened there? Like how did you play it? Like what was the mindset for that role?
The beginning of that question was basically the analogy of my career, I think. And I'm grateful. It was the first time that I actually got to play a series regular over 16 episodes, and it's in and the background to this, just very quickly, which I think will put it in a good place, is that I knew the show runners. I'd worked for two of the writers in the writers' room before. I'd shot pilots and was on 90210, which the show runners had also been on. So I had people writing that knew what I could do. So I felt going in that I had allies. And so the historical part was a gift because it's existing. But what was sort of not expected and was gratefully received was the fantasy element. It's historical fantasy.
Yes.
Basically, I mean, we were wearing leather pants. I mean, they didn't have leather pants at those times, and everyone's hair was all about the hair. And I mean, I loved that, and I got to really again dig my teeth into a really meaty, juicy, you know, essentially an unlikable character. So for me, it was about justifying all of the actions and justifying his behavior. And what the writers gave me to begin with was a character that you see Lord Darnley fall in love with, or is in love with, and wants to marry her. And it's his mother, overpowering, suffocating mother who wants power and control for her son. And it's Queen Elizabeth that he tries to negotiate with to say, allow me to marry Kira and I will never see or travel up to Scotland to see Mary. And in that first scene, had she have just gone, yeah okay, basically I'd be out the show, because the show would be over.
Yeah, that's it. The end. Roll credits.
But so you get this guy who's acting on a broken heart saying, fine, if you won't give me permission to love the one, to marry the one I love, then F the lot of you.
That's right.
I am going to make your life hell. And that's his sort of thing, is that he then Queen Mary basically spreads rumors about him being, you know, an alcoholic, womanizing cad. So he says, fine, if that's what you want to tell everyone, then that's what I'll be. So they gave me all this amazing sort of great place to begin this unlikable character, which I loved.
That's fantastic.
And again, horse riding in leather pants. I mean, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I think we're all there. And we're all there for that. I guess we should get to Hallmark.
We should get to Hallmark. Your first Hallmark movie, Royal Matchmaker, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes.
With the
Bethany Joy Lenz,
a
Lover,
royal classic.
which, by the way, 2018, which was actually when we started this
started the
podcast. So we
that
have
year.
been in this space together for the same amount of time.
That's right.
Have seen the changes with Hallmark and all of that stuff, which we'll get to. But going back to 2018, you did mention that you had to audition for your very first Hallmark movie. So I want to hear about that audition, but also your thought process heading into this. Kind of, what did you know about Hallmark? Was it a space that you were wanting to get into, or was it a space that you didn't even know was really as popular at the time as it was?
I think probably, if I'm really honest, the latter. I'd been up in Vancouver a couple of times shooting other things, pilots and stuff, and in basically in the bar, people have been saying, oh, I'm here doing a Christmas movie. And I'm like, so what's that? There's Christmas movies? And I'm like, yeah, I do one every year. I'm like, okay, that sounds, I mean, I guess Christmas comes around every year, so cool. I was obviously aware of Hallmark. The audition came in, Carolyn McLeod in London. It was ostensibly a prince. It was to play a prince in a romantic comedy, basically, and I liked those. I felt confident that I had a pretty good angle on it and a good handle on it. It was a pretty normal audition. I had heard from my manager at the time, they were more invested and actually were talking about me for something else at Hallmark. I do remember that. So they had obviously, at Hallmark, I believe they became aware of me from Rain. It was just a regular turn up, do as much prep as you have in that, I think probably the night before.
15 days of shooting. Yeah.
Do your thing. Yeah. But cut to being on set. It is. And I will be as honest as I can. It is a beast, that it takes a minute to get used to. And I see it now, having done 7 coming up to the 8th, I think. I see new actors coming in, and you can tell they're a bit like, whoa, it is fast and furious. It is what it is. The material is challenging, and it's challenging for different reasons than Shakespeare.
It's not Shakespeare. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Hallmark's better than
Kemp
Shakespeare.
said Hallmark movies aren't Shakespeare.
He's admitting
That's what he said.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. Hallmark.
Did he just flick us off? I think he flicked us off. Man, that'd be fantastic. Oh, okay. I thought the way it came onto the screen, I was like,
no,
I thought he would not. One of these.
He would not.
He would never.
There are certain things that I would never do to embarrass my clan. No, but it is. They are, 15-day shoots. And Joy, who was a Joy, loves to improvise.
Yep.
And was changing the script and was very loosey-goosey within it. And I was just trying to do the material justice, and I came very well prepared. We had a new draft in I was up till 4 a.m. the night before we shot, reading that draft to try and go through it to see what had changed. And I remember spending a lot of time with her, talking about her character, my character. It was exhausting. It was fun, but exhausting. I'd never done anything so compact. It's a TV show in some movie concept, but it's shot. It's shot in 15 days, which is insane.
Yeah.
Did you go out of that one going, "Give me 7 more, please," or was it like?
It's a great accent.
Thank you.
I think I went out saying, "I think I'm still speaking English. I don't know what I'm saying."
But I think the other thing is
plus I look like this.
Well, yeah.
Joy, like, what'd they do with my hair?
Joy is such a pro. Like she's a friend of the show, and she's like such a pro of these movies. And crafting them and cultivating them to make the mundane very special. And then you have come from being on a show like Rain, where you may have two set locations, 3 locations, and you've got, your pages and your character, and they're doing 100 pages and all these locations and all these sets, and it's just boom, 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 boom. That had to be just like drinking from the fire hose, man.
Absolutely, and what was refreshing was that to have an actor like Joy there keeps you fresh, keeps you in the moment. I mean, I can see the production around that getting a little bit panicky and definitely stresses of making our day. But that's actually where I met Mike Roll, the director, who then I worked with again on Princess Switch 3 with Vanessa.
Amazing.
It was also Brad Crevoy produced that, who then did Christmas Wolves, of course, which is a big success. So from that experience, there are people that I got to work with again, and I always think that's a triumph because nobody goes out of their way to work with people that they don't want to work with.
Princess Switch 3 starred Vanessa Hudgens, and Vanessa Hudgens, from what I understand. We did.
Yes, and I got to meet all 3 of them.
Yeah,
which Vanessa was your favorite?
I actually liked Fiona.
Yeah. No,
I
that's the correct answer.
Play with her a
We've
lot.
reviewed all 3 of those movies for this podcast. So
her British accent's not bad.
Her British accent's
solid.
Good. Yeah.
She's great. I have to say, she is more underrated than any one of her peers. She is a friggin' good actress who puts in the work, and I think she killed that.
Yes, I love those movies. They're great.
And you did then do Love, Romance, and Chocolate, and you meet Lacey Chabert.
Getting to do your first one, and then the second one, getting to be with Lacey Chabert. Like, clearly, you must have had quite the impression after that first one.
2 Hallmark movies, Joy Lenz and Lacey Chabert.
That ain't bad, man. That ain't bad.
Thank you. I agree. I've been very lucky. Now, Lacey's the Queen of Christmas. I mean, what was great about working with Lacey, I was solidifying, this is the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Lacey, for me, it genuinely encapsulates the brand. She is genuinely warm. She's genuinely giggly. She's heartfelt. She's sincere. she's just that genuine goodness, which sounds corny, but I found out it's true. All I had to do was let her lead and set that tone. And she's an absolute joy, and I actually can't wait to work with her again on The Dancing Detective, which I mean have next, hopefully.
The dancing that you two do. I mean, the tango scene in the water,
phenomenal.
In that, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, it's just unbelievable. How do you get that scene? We don't have time. But how did you and Lacey agree on we should do a dancing movie together? Because you've done several movies.
Yes, well,
you even show up to dance with her in Mary Scottish Christmas. I mean, that's clearly your thing.
I know, that was fun. Yeah, that seems to be my sweet pocket within the network, and I'm grateful that I get to do that. And I guess the long and short of it is that we did Christmas Waltz, which was a big success for the network, and was the first time really that they introduced as much dance as a main component, and that I had to train a lot in a lot of techniques that I've never done before. We had people at the helm of that film that had done dance films before, so it was very well constructed. That's actually where I met the choreographer Jean-Marc, who I now use for the Dancing Detectives. I think that I saw an opportunity at that point. I had several productions in development, and I saw an opportunity to bring to Hallmark more of what had just done really well. And so, harking back to wanting to create and be a part of the process, The Dancing Detective is really my first foray into developing projects, co-creating projects, and working with a script writer, choreographer, casting, the whole thing. I love to be involved in all of that as much as I can, and I just thought it would be great to bring the dance element back to Lacey, but also put her in the detective role, to give her an opportunity to play something different that you don't always see her be quite so dry and quite so not curt, but she gets to do these whimsical banter phrases that she does, these one-liners that she does so well, that I don't think she gets the chance to be that sort of tough, or that sort of, it's a bit sassy, and I love sassy. For her, she's brilliant at it.
Yeah. Before we get to paging Mr. Darcy, I just really quickly want to touch on Jolly Good Christmas, a movie that takes place in London, where you just...
He knows what's coming.
Yeah, you're an American. Face. Why?
In such a fun premise for a film, too.
How did it happen?
Well, it happened. So let's start there. It's been and gone, and like it or not, you got to lump it. No, that's what was in the script. It was written that way. Again, if I'm really candid and honest, I jumped onto that very late in the day, and it's a Ron Oliver script. Who
he's a legend. Been on our show many times.
He's a legend. Totally. The network had seen me play American in other things with no problem. As an actor, it's what I do, right? Yeah. The irony is not lost on me. It was a lot harder playing the only American component. I never film in the UK these days. And to be filming in Piccadilly, Leicester Square, Westminster, surrounded by an English crew.
That's tough.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. It was a real challenge. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, of course I do. I love a challenge. And I didn't even question it once they said, oh, by the way, you're going to be playing it as an American. So I was like, sure, okay, I've done that before. I think I can say, in my defense, there was crew members that didn't know I wasn't American.
Nice.
There was a couple of guys on the crew that were like, bloody hell. you're English. Where are you from? From Hertfordshire. Like, no way. We thought you American. And
Dude,
they could have been the best actors in the world and totally but I felt good after that. I know that a lot of Hallmark audiences felt cheated because I didn't have an accent. The irony is that I did have an accent,
yes.
but they wanted me British. They made it very clear that they're going to find it very hard if I turn up with any other accent.
I feel like if the movie's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you have an accent, it's fun. I think the irony was the cross, but you doing the accent of the crew members, you're ready for a Guy Ritchie movie now. Like you're in.
I have met Guy, and I would still love to work.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think you'd fit right in. Guy Ritchie listens to this podcast.
Yeah, we're actually big friends.
He does actually.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new one, Jane Austen. She's also kind of important in British history.
Who dat?
You get to be in some sort of, I'm assuming, paging Mr. Darcy, some sort of Pride and Prejudice remake or some sort of takeoff on it. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah. Okay. So here you go. In a nutshell, it's definitely not a remake. It plays on the Mr. Darcy theme. It's about a scholar who and a professor who attends a fan con. Has a keynote speaker played by Mallory Chanson, who's a delight. And the first time we got to work together, she does an American accent brilliantly. She's an Australian actress who's played. And actually, it was weird when she swapped back. Like on the weekends, she would go, "Hey, mate, how you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, of course, you're." So, but our movie, Paging Mr. Darcy. So my character, Sam Lee, basically does a favor every year for his aunt, who he's very close with and very protective of, and plays Mr. Darcy at the convention. And it's a character that was pitched to me and I saw. He's a shy guy who works in startups. He's actually made a lot of money, but finds his confidence and finds that he really enjoys putting on a costume and becoming another person.
That's so interesting.
Interesting.
Hearing your story.
Pretty much like myself.
I just met somebody like that.
Right? I mean, so it's not a retelling. It involves and revolves around a Jane Austen fan convention.
Nice.
But you do have, what was great about the script and what was intriguing to me is there are echoes of Sense and Sensibility, particularly, Pride and Prejudice. My God, in terms of relationships, in terms of character development, in terms of the pride, in terms of the prejudice, about each other. So it's multi-layered. That's probably where it ends. It's called Paging Mr. Darcy. I play the guy who dresses up as Mr. Darcy at the convention.
Sounds fun.
I love it. Airs this Saturday on the Hallmark Channel.
Right.
We're very much looking forward to it. Before we let you go, we're going to do a quick rapid fire, which is different than what we have been doing in that these questions can be about anything.
That's right. Unlike
and we've
before.
clearly been very in the box so far. Dan, we're just going to ask you 3 questions. We're going to go as quickly as possible.
Is there a specific dancing teacher from your life you'd like to give a shout out to?
Elizabeth Harrison, who's actually my godmother as well, who taught me and taught my sister and my brother. Elizabeth, I love you, Lizzie.
Love it.
I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but in the traditional sense, is there a guilty pleasure TV show that you have been consuming?
Oh my goodness. Well, guilty pleasures is good. I loved Murders in the Building. I think that's a guilty pleasure.
So
it's
good.
a good show. I watched that with my daughter. My son and I watched Barry, which I think is friggin'
amazing.
Amazing. One of the best shows on TV.
Exactly. Ozark. I love that. I'm so sad when that stopped. I don't have much for free time. A guilty pleasure of mine, here's one, is playing PlayStation.
There you go.
What games?
If I get a chance,
what do you play?
I'll lock myself away. I'll play like the one I've got, like the Avatar game. I'll play FIFA. I'll play all the basically the single player games where you get to explore lands and Assassin's Creed, all of that stuff. So if I get a chance, I'll literally disappear in basically like I did as a kid.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
Disappear into my own little world. that's probably my guilty pleasure.
Will, I am a free agent when it comes to picking a football club to cheer for in Europe. I'm trying to get into soccer because that's what we call it here. Who's your football club, and pitch me on why I should be a fan?
On the pitch.
On the pitch.
Well, here's the conundrum. I was never brought up watching football. My dad hates it.
Wow.
My cousin used to play, so I used to go and watch him. I was born near Watford, so Watford is my team. They're pretty terrible. My son loves Man City.
Okay.
His late grandfather, who he never got to meet, was a real hardcore fan. And so he took on that mantle, and City are a phenomenal team to watch. Then they're not very popular. They don't have huge amounts of fans. Brother-in-law supports Liverpool, which I get, but City,
Man City.
It's beautiful. In fact, they're playing tonight, and I've got a little gap between interviews, and I'm gonna watch that game.
I love it.
You get to travel a good bit for work, especially being a London-based actor that does a lot of stuff in Canada and whatnot. What is your favorite city that you get to work in or have worked in the past?
Oh gosh, that's a very good question. I was in Budapest for a lot last year, which was a new one for me, which was beautiful. I still would like to work somewhere really warm and tropical. Get me a job in Hawaii or Caribbean. Yeah. I've still got that's the list. I'd actually like to work in LA again. But Budapest is pretty amazing.
It's a classic. You can't say one answer there. Yeah. Come on,
no, that's good. Do it. That's good.
No, to be honest, it's about the mix. I found as I'm getting older, it's not. You can't have the one thing. Life is like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're gonna get. But it's also about every one of those different tastes, and that's what makes the box of life so sweet.
Yeah. Well, this is purely selfish. I have twin boys that are 7, about to be 8. My wife and my twin boys are going to London in March.
Wow.
Tell me not.
Oh, it should come stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I will coordinate something. Obviously, we'll get together. But when I'm doing touristy stuff.
You and your kids will watch Barry.
That's right. Yeah, my kids watching Barry would be a treat.
Your 7-year-olds are going to love it.
Tell me something.
Exactly. We'll play games together.
Yeah, I read about the double-decker buses and the London Eye and the blah, blah, blah. Tell me something that from someone that's from around there, a restaurant or something that my kids and me need to experience.
Depending on the time of year, if it's soon, do you know what? The Tower of London is pretty friggin' amazing. And I'm not as much of a tourist here as I would want to be. I would definitely do the London Bridge, the Tower of London, the whole Henry VIII sort of period and time is fascinating. Even you can go out to Hampton Court. There is so much history here, which even I'm a bit of an idiot about. And I've sort of gotten back into it through my kids who do all these great school trips. So I would plug into that sort of era and appreciate the historical. I mean, for you and your wife, there's pubs here that are, thousands of years old.
Yeah.
There's buildings here that are older than the majority of anywhere else. Dive in and go to town. Yes, you can do the buses and the big wheel and all this, but go back to the history, specifically Henry VIII. It's fascinating.
Love it.
Great answer.
Yeah.
My last one, obviously, again, you travel a good bit for work. When you're on planes heading to Canada or wherever, what do you listen to? Are you a podcast guy? Are you a music guy? And if one or the other, what is the thing that the specific band or whatever? Good
question. Very good question. Planes for me are either I'm asleep, I catch up on movies. I would listen if I was going to be like in a calming space on a long flight. I would listen to more of the sort of real relaxing stuff, trying to get specific for you. But a lot of the time, planes are prep time. That's if I'm going on a job, I'll still be at that script. I'll still be writing notes, reading, highlighting. Usually I use that as prep time. And if it's at the end of a job, then I'll just be drunk. So I'll pass out.
Classic.
Love it.
Fair.
We did it.
Will, you are a national treasure, sir. International,
in fact. Yes.
Even.
International.
Thank you so much.
He's Mr. International.
Yeah, and he's already said he's coming back, which is exciting for all of us. So many more stories ahead. You need to check out his new movie, Paging Mr. Darcy, Hallmark Channel this Saturday night.
Correct? That's exactly right. We did it.
We did it.
Well, we always end this way, and I know it feels weird because it's
but just
January,
try to
February.
hang tight for us.
But maybe we'll be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark is a Bramble Jam podcast. It's produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.